Hopes for a ceasefire in Gaza are high, with Egypt offering a new proposal for a truce between Israel and Hamas. We're joined by Professor Austin Knuppe for more. Good to have you back.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us. A Hamas delegation visited Cairo Monday for talks aimed at securing a ceasefire. Professor Knuppe, can we raise our hopes that a ceasefire deal can be agreed?
One can certainly hope so. It seems the current deal will be the release of something like 35 to 40 hostages in exchange for anywhere from a 3-week to a 10-week truce, though the details are still unknown.
Well, if the deal is reached, does that mean Israeli military operations in Rafah will not take place eventually?
That's a great question, and that's the big unknown. From Hamas's point of view, even if they agree to the terms of the ceasefire, there's no credible commitment on behalf of the Israeli Defense Force to halt or cancel the siege on Rafah. And so one of the main impediments to a hostage release deal and then a subsequent ceasefire is uncertainty around Israel's plans in the Rafah offensive in the south.
Well, the thing is, Hamas delegation visited Cairo Monday, but they said they will return with a response to the ceasefire offer. Does that mean the ceasefire will actually happen? What do you think?
So a lot depends on Hamas's central political decision-making. Ismail Haniyeh and others that have the final say on the deal. We also know that Hamas and Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, have met in Beijing, discussions over political unity among the Palestinians. And so there's several different negotiations happening all at once, which I think is a good sign. Time will tell whether or not they can agree, both parties can agree to a temporary ceasefire to increase the humanitarian aid that's much needed to the some million-plus Palestinians in Rafah right now.
Right. Well, let's say a potential 10-week ceasefire is also secured. What will happen during that time? I mean, hostage exchange, prisoner swap, what's going to happen during that time?
So on the one hand, there'll be an exchange, most likely an exchange of hostages for Palestinian prisoners held by the Israelis. At the same time, there'll be an increase in humanitarian aid for basic needs, food, water, medicine, fuel for cooking, etc. And there will, at the same time, be international political negotiations around the Israeli Defense Forces' actions in the Gaza Strip. As we know, there's an ongoing case brought by South Africa to the International Court of Justice, and there's also rumors that the International Criminal Court is going to be issuing arrest warrants for senior Israeli leaders, though the current status of that is more uncertain than the ICJ case. And so we'll see humanitarian relief, we'll see the negotiations of prisoners for hostages, and then we'll see an uptick in the delivery of basic needs and humanitarian assistance to those Palestinian civilians most in need.
Right, that leads to my next question. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is among the figures who might be named in the ICC arrest warrant. Now, how is Netanyahu reacting to this?
Well, reports indicate that he's quite stressed out or quite nervous about the prospect of being indicted.
Yeah.
Obviously, neither Israel nor the United States are signatories to the International Criminal Court, but Israel and America's European partners are. And so in the event that there's an arrest warrant that's issued, if these Israelis diplomats travel to a country that is signatory to the ICC, they risk arrest and extradition to The Hague. And so that's the major concern, not that Israel nor the United States would extradite these leaders, but they would really restrict their ability to travel internationally and engage in diplomacy.
Definitely. Then let's say Netanyahu is included in that list. What legal procedures or steps lie ahead for Netanyahu?
Well, my guess is that he would negotiate with the Americans some deal to end the war and also shield him from further legal ramifications for the war. Of course, a lot of that depends on third parties, other countries that the Israelis are negotiating with, and the risk that the Israeli delegation would travel to a European Union country, for instance, and risk being arrested and extradited. I think that possibility is low, though it certainly is a risk that the Israeli government has to account for in the event that the ICC continues by issuing warrants.
Right, but it's not just Israeli officials. Hamas officials will are highly likely to be included in the ICC arrest warrant list. Now, what would happen to
That's right.
Hamas officials? Just same thing?
Same thing. It would be harder to extradite Hamas militants given where they're the fact that they're in Gaza, in Qatar, in Egypt, Turkey, and elsewhere. Obviously, the ICC does not have an independent law enforcement arm. It only operates with the consent of signatory states complying with the demand to extradite those accused to stand trial. And so it's of limited effectiveness when it comes to great power conflicts, of which the Israel-Hamas war is a proxy conflict involving the great powers.
All right, Professor Knuppe, thank you so much, as always, for your time and your insight. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for the opportunity.